Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dimitris Pefanis, and I would like to welcome you all to the second day of this year's Thessaloniki Summit. We start the event after all the inaugural discussions with the first panel dedicated to the EU transport corridors and the Southeastern Europe transport infrastructure. In my opinion, it's a very vital issue, and it's extremely vital given the fact that we are here in Thessaloniki, which is a landmark place for infrastructure. It's a pivotal place that can lead to growth and prosperity in the region through investments in infrastructure. And I think we have the best possible participants for this panel. I'm really delighted to be discussing with Mr. Christos Staikouras, the Minister of Infrastructure and Transport of the Hellenic Republic. Mr. Staikouras, welcome to the Thessaloniki Summit. And Mr. Grozdan Karadzov, the Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Transport and Communications for the Republic of Bulgaria. Mr. Karadzov, welcome to Thessaloniki, welcome to the Thessaloniki Summit. And would like to start the event with two initial statements from beginning with Mr. Karadzov and then following with Mr. Staikouras, and then we can have hopefully fruitful discussion given that we do have a lot of ground to cover, both literally and metaphorically. So, Mr. Karadzov, if you'd like to take the stand.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Dear Minister Staikouras, Your Eminence Philote, dear Mr. Pefanis, dear guests. People say that geography is destiny, but sometimes it is really about the bonds that people make. And if there is one thing that defines the relationship between Greeks and Bulgarians, it is the deep personal connections we share. Like every Bulgarian, I have of course been many times to Greece, visiting on vacation. And every time within just a few minutes at a local taverna, the owner has offered me homemade olive oil. We have exchanged all the latest family news, and somehow I end up with an invitation to his cousin's wedding. That warmth and that sense of belonging is what makes Greece feel for us less like a neighbor and more like a family. But for me, Greece is not just a place of hospitality and friendship. It is part of my own journey and the history we all share. As a student and part of the anti-communist movement of the students in the turbulent years after the fall of the Berlin Wall, I stood in the streets of my country, rallying for our first democratic elections, holding posters and banners that were printed here in Greece. You might ask why Greece? Because the regime at that time, still desperately clinging to power and still very resilient, wouldn't allow us to print them in my own country. So, at that time, those posters were printed here in Greece as part of the support we got. And this was not just a printing, just the ink, just the paper. These helped carry the voices of a new generation demanding freedom, strengthened by the silent support of a neighboring country that believed in our future. In the last 30 years, Greece was more than a neighbor. It was a lifeline, a supporter of Bulgaria's transition, both politically and economically. Over the years, this relationship has grown into something even stronger, a true partnership shaping the future of our region, from economic cooperation to transport infrastructure. Greece and Bulgaria have worked hand in hand to ensure that the Southeast Europe is not just a bridge between the East and the West, but a vital integrated part in Europe's future. And as we are gathered here at the 8th Thessaloniki Summit, I can only say from the depth of my heart, thank you, Greece. Thank you for the journey we have traveled together, for the challenges we have overcome, and for the future we continue to build, side by side, towards a stronger, more connected, and more prosperous region. Southeast Europe is and has always been unique in its geolocation and the importance as a transport gateway connecting Western and Central Europe with the Black Sea region, the Eastern Mediterranean, the Middle East, and Asia. This region, our region's transport infrastructure is crucial for promoting economic growth, ensuring seamless trade, and enhancing regional stability. However, we must admit that there are still significant gaps in infrastructure development and quality in Southeast Europe compared to Western Europe. Strategic investments and joint efforts are still needed to strengthen our region's transport network and make it as sustainable and efficient as it should be. EU policy on the development and financing of the Trans-European Transport Network and the European Transport Corridors is therefore crucial for our region to achieve this ambitious goal. We need to continually raise awareness at EU level of the need for European solidarity in supporting the development and strengthening of the transport networks in the region, the need for enlarging the financing for both our countries and the other countries in the region. The new European Baltic Sea Black Sea Agency Transport Corridor connecting Eastern Europe along the north-south axis is intended to provide a link between the three seas and become an instrument for the development of sustainable and multimodal freight and passenger transport flows. Bulgaria has largely developed its port of the main European Western Balkans to Eastern Mediterranean Transport Corridor connecting Western and Central Europe and Serbia with Turkey, the Middle East and Far East. Significant progress has been made in the implementation of projects to modernize rail and road infrastructure along the entire route. As part of the revised TEN-T regulation, we have made great efforts to negotiate the inclusion of the Bari, Dares, Tirana, Skopje, Sofia route in the alignment of the new Western Balkans, Eastern Mediterranean corridor. We are currently working with the Republic of North Macedonia to find a solution for our cross-border connection. Our region also has significant transport potential in terms of inland waterways. As part of the European Rhine-Danube Transport Corridor, we are committed to ensuring good navigation conditions along the Danube, both through regular maintenance and the implementation of long-term measures. We are working with our Greek partners to implement the Thessaloniki, Kavala, Alexandroupolis, Burgas, and Varna-Russe railway project. The line is part of the European Baltic Sea Black Sea Agency Transport Corridor. The timely construction of this railway link will improve connectivity between Black Sea and the Mediterranean ports. Projects to improve Bulgaria's Black Sea and Danube ports have been implemented, and we are taking decisive steps to increase their capacity and attract more customers in the coming years. We do firmly believe that the role of Southeast Europe as a transport gateway will become increasingly important for the future of Europe. The revision of the TEN-T guidelines provides us with an opportunity to address existing challenges and accelerate projects. With the continued support of the EU and by working together, we are committed to closing the infrastructure gap and ensuring that the region meets the highest European standards. These efforts will not only improve regional connectivity, but also contribute to a stronger, more competitive, and more integrated Europe. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Minister Karatov. You did raise a lot of interesting points, and to begin with, thank you for the kind words. It was very touching what you said about Greece and what role we played, but you did raise a number of very interesting points, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity to discuss more and focus on them during the second part of the panel. So at this point, I would like to invite Minister Staikouras to step up to the podium and deliver his initial speech.
Dear Grosnan, thanks a lot for being here. It's the third time we meet over the last 30 days in similar panels. So thanks a lot for your kind words regarding the Greek state, the Greek sovereign. Dear guests, allow me to thank the organizers, especially Sve and Ms. Saranti, for the honor to be a speaker at the Thessaloniki Summit. This is an opportunity to share my insights and engage with such a distinguished audience. Our discussions today underscore the vital importance of strategic investment in our transport infrastructure. Indeed, what is our common vision regarding transport infrastructure? Our vision is clear: a seamless network of roads, railways, ports, and airports that connect every corner of the corridor and of our continent, offering greener, faster, and more efficient transport of passengers and goods. Towards that direction, we share the concerns raised recently in the letter and Draghi reports, which emphasize the importance of sustainable continent-wide mobility and the need for coordinated planning and investment. Thus, to make this vision a reality, taking into account these concerns, we must address two critical factors: the TEN-T policy and investments in order to implement this policy. TEN-T, as we move forward with a shared view for a more interconnected and efficient Europe. The development of the TEN-T policy, especially the completion of the European transport corridors within the agreed deadlines, is the pivotal cornerstone for the sustainable, smart, and resilient European transport network. To achieve this goal, the scale of required investments is immense. Why we need these investments? First of all, for sustainability and resilience. Funding must be accessible for projects that span multiple countries, complete missing links, and eliminate discontinuities within countries and at the cross-border level. Moreover, completion of the European transport corridors through development of the new high-speed rail connections linking the capitals and major cities across the European Union will contribute to the decarbonization of the transport sector at the European level, while strengthening the resilience of the European Union, inter alia, for the needs of military mobility. Indeed, investing in the resilience of the trans-European transport network through both adaptation and mitigation. I will repeat it. Adaptation and mitigation is crucial to prevent significant social economic losses from climate extremes. A study by the European Commission reveals growing risks like heat waves, floods, and wildfires. To address these vulnerabilities, an estimated investment of 71 billion euros is needed to adapt TEN-T infrastructure for mid-century climate conditions. The second reason for investments on TEN-T policy is for development, competitiveness, and a well-functioning internal market. And the third reason is for stability, security, and social cohesion. The war in Ukraine has disrupted regional supply chains and energy flows, directly affecting the TEN-T corridors in Eastern Europe. We must ensure that critical infrastructure projects in these regions are protected from instability and enhance the resilience of these corridors against future geopolitical shocks. Geopolitical challenges also necessitate greater diversification of Europe's supply chains and trade routes. The TEN-T policy's objective to develop cross-border transport corridors connecting the EU with neighboring countries and beyond is crucial to ensure Europe's resilience in the face of future disruptions. Investments in infrastructure that link the EU to its eastern and southern neighbors, including through the European transport corridors, will strengthen the EU's economic security and mitigate external vulnerabilities. Ladies and gentlemen, to sum up, securing adequate financing and mechanism is vital for sustainability, resilience, development, competitiveness, stability, security, and social cohesion. Towards that direction, a letter was sent recently, the previous week, by 11 prime ministers and presidents, among others, the Greek Prime Minister, to the President of the European Commission on the European high-speed rail network and its financing. According to the letter, to implement our shared goals and to turn plans into large-scale construction phase, with significant participation of European industry, sufficient financial resources, and development of new instruments, such as bridge financing, are needed. We acknowledge that major cross-border construction projects usually require long preparatory work for intergovernmental agreements, budgetary decisions, permitting and procurement procedures, and technical studies, and are implemented in phases. Thus, we do explore alternative ways of financing, and we count on strong support of the European Investment Bank policy to accomplish our objectives. However, and without preempting the next multi-annual financial framework, we would like to underline that EU co-financing of those connections in the next financial period is absolutely essential and indispensable. We strongly advocate robust, centrally managed CEF3, not CEF2, CEF3, of increased financial ambition, which would be a catalyst for the development of a fully fledged TEN-T network, including the missing high-speed rail connections and the completion of major cross-border projects. Indeed, the Connecting Europe facility has proven to be instrumental for the development of the TEN-T network and the implementation of the European corridors according to common EU standards within tight timeframes. Ladies and gentlemen, aimed at creating an integrated and efficient European transport network, the TEN-T policy has provided a framework for Greece and Bulgaria, to work collaboratively towards our common goals over the past decades. One of the most remarkable aspects of this cooperation is the development of key European corridors that link our countries, facilitating the seamless connection and movement of goods, services, and people. Both countries are positioned along two European corridors, the Western Balkan, East Mediterranean corridor, and the Baltic Sea, Black Sea, and the Aegean Sea corridor, the BBA. The first corridor connects our countries with Western Balkans, ensuring a smooth flow of trade and travel between the two EU member states and the rest of Europe. By investing in the modernization and expansion of this corridor, we are not only enhancing our transport infrastructure, but also boosting trade and economic integration within the continent. The second corridor, the BBA corridor, links the ports of the Black Sea in Bulgaria to the Baltic Sea ports and the Aegean. This provides a vital alternative for international trade and logistic chains, reaching continents like Africa and Asia, fully aligned with the concept and notion of solidarity lanes. This corridor offers a direct and efficient route for maritime transport, fostering greater connectivity between our countries and improving access to international markets. Ladies and gentlemen, we are committed to advancing our rail network in order to foster greater connectivity and economic integration with Bulgaria. A key project in this regard is the upgrade of the railway line Alexandroupoli-Ormenio, partly funded by the Connecting Europe facility, the CEF2 instrument. In particular, in October 16, 2024, a grant agreement of 220 million euros was signed between the EU services and the Greek entity Ergose, upgrading the railway line in the Pythio-Ormenio section. Moreover, we already submitted recently, in January, a corresponding application for funding, once again on our quota from CEF2 for the section Alexandroupoli-Pythio. This whole project, in conjunction with the project connecting the freight port of Kavala with the railway, forms the basis for cross-border cooperation, aligning with our efforts to utilize the C2C corridor as part of the BBA project. We also recognize the importance of the road network with Bulgaria. The Dimario-Rudozev connection, which is about to be concluded, is crucial, especially after the recent developments. Bulgaria's full integration into the Schengen area allows for easier travel between Bulgaria and Greece, bypassing traditional border crossings. This change is expected to enhance connectivity and facilitate smoother movement of people and goods between the two countries. Ladies and gentlemen, by integrating rail, road, and maritime transport, we are creating a seamless and sustainable transport network that meets the requirements of the 21st century. This approach not only reduces transport costs, but also minimizes externalities like environmental impact and accidents. Working together, we are building a future where our countries are more connected, our networks and economies are more resilient, and our societies are more prosperous. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Staikouras. You did give us a very thorough roadmap of what's coming ahead, but also you did raise a lot of issues and a lot of challenges that we'll probably have the opportunity to discuss in the next minutes. So going back to Mr. Karadzov, in your initial statement, you made a lot of interesting points and you did bring up a number of challenges. What I would like to ask you is, from your perspective, what constitutes the major challenge for regional connectivity, both in regards to Bulgaria and Greece, but also for the whole region?
Thank you. This is a very direct question, and I would like to answer directly. The main challenges in the region that I see are, and they don't concern our relationship with Greece, fortunately, but the main concerns are the relationships between the countries. I have spoken in the very beginning, and I want to make it once again very clear, that I came here today as a very clear sign of what we Bulgarians feel for Greece, for the Greek people. What I feel personally for Mr. Staikouras. If he has a problem with Bulgaria, he can call me and we can resolve it not in a neighborly fashion. We can resolve it in a brotherly fashion. I will always listen to what he says and I will always advance and make sure that his problems are also my problems. And between the neighbors, there are very often, as you heard also in his presentation, a lot of problems that you cannot resolve yourselves. You have to, the continuation of your efforts go on the territory of your neighbor. In this case, between Bulgaria and Greece, there are no obstacles. We look in the same direction and we are on one and the same page of the book. I hope this becomes the situation with all Balkan states, and this is the first obstacle. We have to make more brotherly relationships between all the countries in the region, helping foster and helping accelerate all the trans-territory projects. So this is the first challenge. The next challenge, of course, is the infrastructure challenge. To make such advanced, seamless infrastructure, as Mr. Staikouras said, it takes a lot of funds. And these funds are not possible neither for our budget, neither just for the budget of Greece, neither for the budget of Romania. And cohesion and solidarity means that those countries, those regions that are less developed should be helped with priority. It's very simple. That is why we ask for more solidarity and for more cohesion for all of our regions. We are not egoistic for Bulgaria. He's not egoistic just for Greece. We want to make this region as much infrastructurally developed as is the Western Europe. And that's what the European Union at the very beginning stands for. These are the challenges according to me. Thanks.
Thank you very much. There are very important issues that you raised, but I also keep in mind that the fact that, as you said, you try to resolve this in a brotherly fashion, and that means a lot. So coming back to Ms. Christaikouras, I'd like to bring the discussion to Thessaloniki. We're here in Thessaloniki Summit, and I cannot help myself to ask about Thessaloniki in terms of becoming a regional transportation hub. What's your vision in that, and what are the measures that the Greek government is implementing either by itself or in cooperation with other governments to transform the area into its new form?
I think we have invested heavily over the last 2 years in order to upgrade, especially the confidence of Thessaloniki. I will not repeat what we have done for the metro or for the extension of the metro to Kalamaria or for the new buses. We have the board of directors of us here. But I will concentrate on what is the topic of that conference. I will concentrate on connectivity. So first of all, and many times we bypass it, the Egnatia Highway Concession Agreement proceeds. And this is crucial for maintenance reasons. Don't forget that we have also to make maintenance projects in Greece. So this is crucial, and the Egnatia Highway Concession Agreement proceeds. Secondly, and tomorrow we will give you an upgrade, an update of where we stand. We have the construction of the Thessaloniki flyover, which is carried out at a rapid pace. We have already completed 20% of that. We have the contract for the road access from Ioannina to Kakavia. This was signed back in December 2024. And this road, which connects Greece with Albania, will be completed by 2027-2028. And we have concrete projects, especially on railway. As I mentioned before, we managed over the last 2 years to absorb a significant portion of available money on our envelope, on our quota from CEF2. How much? 1.5 billion euros. For which reasons? For the restoration of the railway network of Central Greece, which is crucial in order to bring especially projects from Piraeus to Thessaloniki and to the Balkans, the upgrade of the railway line in Macedonia, the Thessaloniki Promachonas project, and the Alexandroupoli-Ormenio project, I mentioned it before, as well as the upgrade of the suburban railway of West Thessaloniki. And the third priority, where we have concrete results, has to do with the connection of the ports with the railway. In this case, we have, as I mentioned before, the construction of a new single line connecting the port of Kavala with the railway, as well as we have the railway connection to the 6th pier of the port of Thessaloniki, especially on the latter project. This has a budget of around 54 million euros. The call to submit a corresponding bidding offer is expected to be sent out to the participants by the end of this year, of 2025. The contract signed is expected in the first semester of 2026 in order to have the completion of the connection of the 6th pier in around 2030. And finally, we have one more project which has to do with the Thessaloniki-Idomeni single line. In this case, already Egosé, through the contract 713, with a budget of around 46 million euros, is installing modern electronic signaling systems and ETCS on this single line. And the systems will be delivered for use in the first quarter of 2026. So I tried to share with you concrete projects with timetables in order to prove that Thessaloniki is a priority for us.
Thank you very much, Minister. You did raise a lot of issues. You did pinpoint a lot of projects that will definitely improve the situation. And from what I understand, there is a coherent vision of what's about to happen in the next years. It's not just projects by themselves, but they are entwined into a vision for not only the city, but also the region. And that allows me to come back to Minister Karazov. And in a sense, sticking to the region and Thessaloniki, I would like to ask you, we saw the adoption of the new TEN-T guidelines, and in them the route of the railway project from Thessaloniki, Kavala, Alexandroupolis, Burgas, Varna and Ruse became part of the Baltic Sea, Black Sea, Aegean Sea European Transport Corridor, and that's a major development in my opinion. So in relation to that, what are the measures that you implement in order to develop this transport infrastructure, which is a major infrastructure, both in terms of significance, but also in actual terms, in terms of length?
Thank you very much for this question. Yes, we are paying a lot of attention to this corridor because internally there are sectors that are being developed already for several years. We are at the moment making the rehabilitation of the Plovdiv-Burgas railway, which is the section that will be used eventually in Bulgaria when we connect the Egnatia road by rail, the ports, all the ports, Thessaloniki, Kavala, Alexandroupoli, when we connect them by rail to Svilengrad, where is our meeting point with the Greek border. And then the trains will go from Svilengrad to Plovdiv, and from Plovdiv they go to Burgas and to Varna. So this is the major portion, the portion that will carry the most loads and passengers in Bulgaria, and it is already in the process of rehabilitation. We have also doubled the electrification of the Karnobat-Sindel railway, and this is the portion that makes the extension towards Varna. So all these three are with aim to this corridor that you're asking me, and we are extensively working on them. Also, in connection with that corridor, we are doing now the capital dredging of the Burgas port, making it more suitable for heavier and bigger ships, making it more suitable for loading and unloading procedures. Burgas is the main beneficiary of the 3Cs project, and it becomes one of the most modernized, most modern ports on the Black Sea with the completion of this project, making it possible to link the three ports here in Greece with our two ports on the Black Sea, plus the port of Ruse, which is on the Danube River. The next thing that we are doing on that corridor is we will be, most likely we will just open a concession procedure for the ferry boat port in Varna. This is a very unique facility where you can take the trains, change the wheels and transfer them to Asia, or from Asia coming you can transfer them with the European standard wheels and bring them through the same corridor here to the Greek ports. And in the Ruse port area we plan to construct a new combined road bridge together with the Romanians, and do a road and railway bridge that is going to enhance our access for the south to north axis. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And another issue that you both raised, another underlying element in both your initial statement, was that of funding, both local but also European funding. So starting with Minister Tsaikouras, I would like to ask you, how feasible is it to claim and utilize European funding, especially in the tight deadlines that we are facing? And how confident are you that we will be able to gain and use enough funds to bring those very important plans to fruition?
First of all, I would like to confirm what you commented before regarding the coherent plan that we have. Indeed, we try to connect ports, especially Thessaloniki, Kavala and Alexandroupoli, with the railway. However, even in this coherent plan, we have problems or shortages coming up mainly from funds and the funding instruments. For example, as I mentioned before, in the Alexandroupoli-Ormenio case, we were obliged to split it in two in order to absorb the available money. This is why we had a new invitation recently in order to take some more money for a portion of that project. So funding is an issue. We have many different available instruments, like, for example, the RRF. So, for example, I have to leave in a while and go back to Athens because we have a discussion with our European colleagues about our envelope in the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure regarding the RRF. And in this case, since you mentioned the timelines and the timetables, we will deliver on time. We are already on track. Which are the major projects we have on our envelope? The Cretan Northern Highway, the upgrade of the suburban railway of Western Attica, E65, the completion of E65, as well as the accessibility restoration following the devastating effects of storms Daniel and Elias. These are the four major projects we have on infrastructure coming up from RRF. On transport, we have the implementation of EASA compliance rectification works. We have electromobility. We have the modernization of the Greek railway. And we have the electric buses. And you have already in Thessalonika 110 electric buses from the previous year, from 2024. So regarding this instrument, we will deliver on time. This sum up to around 2.5 billion euros. The second major instrument that is available has to do with CEF, CEF 2. I will not repeat the projects, but mainly these are concentrated on railway, on how we will connect the ports with the railway. Alexandroupoli, Ormenio, Kavala, the railway, Thessaloniki, Domeni, Thessaloniki, Promachonas. This sum up, as I mentioned before, to around 1.5 billion euros. The third instrument is coming from EIB. So we have to lend from EIB and the Council of Europe Development Bank. The fourth pillar has to do with the Greek banking sector, which is much more stable these days compared with 5 years ago. And of course, the fiscal space that is creating every year steadily over the last 5 years. These are mainly public financing or European financing. However, we have also to take into account that we have two more instruments, consensus and PPPs. And we take advantage of these financial instruments, which are already applicable in many projects in the Greek sovereign. Among others, the Egnatia Highway.
Thank you very much, Minister Saikouras. A lot of financial instruments. And on that, a final note for Mr. Karadzov on financing. Do you think that more European funds should be allocated for the transport development in order to achieve better connectivity? Do we need actual additional funding, or do we need to take advantage of what we have?
Of course, we have to take advantage of what we have, But as I previously said, we can not do it with only our own funding. Neither our budget, neither I believe my Greek colleague will have enough funding to complete these huge projects in a timely manner. Maybe over a long period of time, we will be able to achieve it with our own budgets, but we rely very much on our common sense and the common sense of the European Commission. These corridors that we are talking about, the south to north, and the corridor that goes from the ports of Greece on the Aegean Sea, going to the Black Sea, they are important for Europe. And that is why I believe we should stick together, unite ourselves, and go hand in hand to the European Commission and talk about the missing parts. Because as I described to you, we are developing some parts of our railway network. Our road network in those corridors will be mostly completed by the end of 2030. But there are missing points where our railway network is weak. For example, the line starting from the Greek border going to Sofia would be like 30% in a very good condition, but the 70% is in not so good condition, so it cannot handle the goal of at least 80 kilometers per hour. To rehabilitate it, it takes a lot of funding. If we have to rely on ourselves, it will be a small bit every year. It will take more than a decade to complete just this section. With European funding, we will be able to complete it faster, link with the rehabilitation and modernization that Greece is doing, and make this corridor faster working, faster bringing back revenues, and thus making it financially viable. And this is why both countries, we have to go hand in hand really to the commissioners and say this is of our common interest, but it's not only for Greece and Bulgaria, it's for Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ministers, for that fruitful discussion. We did cover a lot of ground, and from what my understanding is that there are a lot of projects that are being put in place and a very important vision for the broader area. Thank you very much.